Welcome back, WordCamp Santa Clarita 2021. You made it. You made it through day 2 on the revolution ride. And was it a revolution? Or just, I think it was a revolution. I feel it. Last day, last session, put your arms up as you go down. Ron Amick is my name, connecting from North Hollywood, not far from beautiful downtown Burbank. I own a WordPress agency, co-founded WordPress San Fernando meetup with Jennifer Huang and Sumner M. Davenport. And I am happy to have helped my friend Joseph A. Simpson Jr. as an organizer on the first WordCamp Santa Clarita Valley in 2019. Thank you so much for coming by to attend What WordPress Users Need to Know About SEO in 2021, presented by David Zimmerman. Please add your questions to the YouTube chat feed and we'll answer those after the presentation. You have to be logged into YouTube, any YouTube account, in order to comment in the chat. So, David Zimmerman states, we all want the free traffic that SEO can bring to our sites. SEO advice, however, always seems to be changing. That's why Google keeps it all a secret, keeps their algorithms secret, because then they can change them. David is all about love, Google love, that is, as in search engine optimization kind of love. In this talk, David is going to help us understand some of the best things we can do to get more traffic and better business by improving SEO efforts. He wants to help WordPress users, designers, developers get the most love out of Google. David will share some of the things he does to help his clients improve their SEO. You will be able to apply this advice to your websites as well. As you may have guessed, David really enjoys SEO and internet marketing because it allows him to work, in his case, with both sides of his brain. And if you read my bio, that might sound familiar. The logical side feeds on measuring results of a campaign through web analytics and the technical aspect of development. The creative side, we're talking about David's brain. The creative side thrives on coming up with an original idea or inspiring a piece of content. This is David singing my song here. David believes that a successful online marketing campaign needs to be both logical and creative. And he always tries to bring his whole self to any campaign. David Zimmerman has spoken at many WordPress meetups and WordCamps, Atlanta, Birmingham, Asheville, Philly, Austin, to name a few, and most recently, WordCamp Europe 2021. Very auspicious. Contrary to rumor, David Zimmerman is not Bob Dylan's younger brother. But I digress. Take it away, David.
Hi, my name's David Zimmerman, and today I'm going to talk to you about things that you need to know about SEO in 2021. This is a talk I like to give to help people keep up to date with the trends in SEO. There's a lot of things always going on, and there's a lot of rumors always going wrong. I hope to kind of dispel some of those rumors, give you some actionable things that you need to do so that your website can be better found on the search engines, presumably by your customers, which would be a great thing, wouldn't it? So, let's begin. Before we do anything, I think we need to talk about just the basics of what is SEO. Now, maybe this seems a little parochial, but the idea here is everybody claims to be an SEO expert. Everybody seems to know SEO. Every plugin promises to give you SEO advantages. But what does SEO mean? And I want to limit this conversation to the idea that SEO is about helping your customers find your website on the search engines. That's it. It's really not that more complicated. You have customers, they're looking for what you have to provide, and we're going to do the things to help you connect with those customers. That's what SEO is. Now, that might be a little limited of a definition for clarity's sake, so I find it very valuable to go through kind of some of the ideas of what SEO is not. For instance, SEO is not all kinds of web marketing. Sometimes people will say, hey, David, could you SEO my email template? Well, no. SEO is one form of marketing. Email is another form of marketing. They're both great ways to promote your website to your customers, but they're different. And I'm not here to talk about how to email market or how to do your Facebook, I'm here to talk about connecting your customers to your business through the search engines. Another thing SEO is not is just frankly it's not for everyone. Sometimes you are first to market and you are the first company to provide a service. And problem is that SEO doesn't do a good job introducing people to something that's very new. They have to be looking for it already. They have to understand there's a solution available and go to Google to search for that solution. If you are the first person to provide a solution for something, SEO isn't your play. Perhaps you need to hire a PR firm. Maybe you need to invest in social media. But the point is SEO responds to customer demand. It doesn't create customer demand. And another thing SEO is not, it's simply not about tricking Google. Let's just stop thinking that way for a moment. SEO is a legitimate marketing way, a marketing channel. Let's get over the arrogance that there's a secret sauce, there's a secret button, there's a secret trick to help you get to the top of the search results. Let's get over that. Google, at this point, the algorithm is machine learned. They're rolling out the MUM algorithm, which is just so sophisticated. Let's stop pretending like we can be smarter than Google. I'm not here to give you a secret that will be, oh yeah, once you do this one thing, everything will be great. No, SEO is a marketing channel and not about tricking Google. And last, and this may be one of the most problematic ideas, SEO is not a one-time thing. You can't set it and forget it. SEO is an ongoing campaign. It's something we have to constantly do over and over again. We have to keep at it, at the least because Google likes new content on websites, but also because SEO is always changing, and what you did a couple years ago might not work because the algorithm is different. So let's not say, here's an SEO'd website for you, you're done. No, we can set up a website for success, but SEO is really an ongoing campaign if it's going to be successful. Well, that's kind of negative, but let's talk about some of the things that make up a successful, productive SEO campaign. And I like to think about it in terms of 4 different things. First thing is, can you measure it? The old saying, if a tree falls in a forest and no one's there, same thing. If you're successful at SEO and you can't measure your success, are you really successful at SEO? We have to be able to measure our results. And that's the first step, not just to SEO, but any marketing campaign. Please, before you pay anybody, or before you spend any time in any marketing effort, make sure you can measure its success. Second of all, as far as SEO goes, can Google crawl your website? Google has sent this bot, the robot out there, the spider out there to crawl a website and discover things. You can't do SEO if Google can't read your website. And so the second step of any SEO campaign is to make sure Google can crawl your site. The third, and this is what most people think of when they think of SEO, is content. Are you speaking in terms of how your customers are looking for you? Maybe that's just good marketing, but it's also important for SEO. And last, it's links. We know you're an expert in your field. We know you're the best at providing a particular service in your area. But does anybody else say that you're an expert? That's what links help us do. So to have a successful SEO campaign, you have to have these 4 elements. Now, this is what's always changing when it comes to SEO. So I want to delve into these 4 parts of SEO and talk about what's been changing lately as it relates to SEO. So let's start with the first part of SEO, measurement. Like I said, whether you're doing SEO or any other marketing channel, please make sure you're able to measure results. This is the value of online marketing. This is why we don't just pay for a billboard somewhere and hope someone sees it. Or this is why, no one uses phone books anymore. It's because we don't just spend a bunch of money and hope something works. Or we decide, it must be working because we're spending a lot of money. The value of online marketing, whether SEO or something else, is that we know how much it's done. So, that's why the first thing we should all be starting with is setting up an analytics system. And frankly, the best one out there for most of our purposes is Google Analytics. It's free and it's easy to set up. If I can click the right button, it is. Google has this plugin for WordPress called Sitekit. Boy, does this make it easy to set up analytics. You don't have to crack into your theme and modify your theme anymore. There are other plugins that allow you to do it, but I prefer the Sitekit plugin. It's not because Google produced it. I'm not superstitious like that. But it does allow you to do several things. For instance, if you just want to set up Google Analytics, great. Done. And you walk away. But the real value of Google Analytics is setting up the goals. I didn't mean to go that direction yet. So we're going to talk about goals in a second. I skipped ahead in my notes. One of the really cool things about Sitekit is that it allows you to set up Google Tag Manager as well. Google Tag Manager you can almost think about this as a bucket you put on your website. And in that bucket, you can put all your different marketing tags so that you put this bucket on your site and you can add Facebook marketing and it serves your Facebook tag for your customers. If you want to do LinkedIn marketing, you just put it in your bucket and you take it out. You do AdWords or Microsoft ads, put it in your bucket. Take it out when you don't need it. This prevents you from having to mess with the code on your site. You don't have to hire a developer to do this. You install the Sitekit plugin. You use the Sitekit plugin to install Google Tag Manager, and that allows you to serve up the codes you need and frankly remove them when you don't need them anymore. So I highly recommend setting up the Sitekit plugin and using it to set up Google Tag Manager to serve your code. And like I said, while you're in there, I guess I didn't say this yet, but while you're in there, be sure to set up Google Search Console as well. They're very different tools. Google Analytics sees how anybody comes to your site and what they do with your site. Google Search Console, used to be called Webmaster Tools, is showing you how Google search engine understands your website. So this is free. It's easy. You install the Sitekit plugin. You can install Google Search Console as well. Easy. Because if you're going to do an SEO campaign, you're going to want to make sure you understand how Google can read your site. And so it's free. It's easy. It's a lot of valuable information. So set this up too. Now, some of you have set up Google Analytics recently. You've been introduced to, a very different interface in Google Analytics. This is called GA4. This is the next iteration of analytics. The previous iteration is called Universal Analytics, and GA4 is what Google's pushing now. This is the future. We will all be moving into GA4. However, let me caution you for a moment. This is not ready for public consumption. don't use it yet. Now, when I give this presentation in a few months, or maybe next year, I'll probably change the story, but we're talking about what to do with SEO in 2021 in July. And I'm saying to you now, don't set up GA4. Google is pushing everybody into it. In fact, they make it hard for you to figure out how to revert to Universal Analytics if you're setting up a new Google Analytics account. But it's not ready yet, so I don't recommend you do it. Now, there's a little trick to make sure you use the old version of Google Analytics for now, is when you're setting up your property, and here's what the wizard will look like when you're setting up a new Google Analytics property. Click on what it says Show Advanced Options, and under the Show Advanced Options, it will allow you to set up Universal Analytics. It actually allows you to set up both GA4 and Universal Analytics, which is okay. You're going to want to use Universal Analytics, but go ahead and set them both up now. Point is, at the very least, you need to have Universal Analytics on your site, not GA4 yet. I have a video on YouTube on how to set this up, if that helps you. We can talk about that later. Now, I kind of jumped ahead to this because this is very important when it talks about measuring your SEO campaign. But the idea is we want to accomplish something with our website. We don't want people to just see our business and say, wow, that's a great business, and walk away. We want those people to visit our website and say, that's a great business, I want to give them money. You, as the website owner, need to decide what is the goal of accomplishing your website. Do you sell something on your website? Do you want sales leads? Do you want people to contact you for your service? What do you want your website to accomplish? Sometimes we skip this step and we think that by just having a website, we're going to somehow get more customers. But we need to take an extra step in measuring how many people complete a goal. Here is one of my clients, name hidden to protect them. You can see they've set up the goals on their website. They have several goals. They can request more information. There was a short contact form they're no longer using, hence it's 0. They have phone calls using a system called CallRail, and they're tracking those. This offers a lot of value because what it shows is not just that people came to the website, but when those people came to the website, how many of them attempted to contact them for a service. This allows this company to be able to say, I know which marketing channels worked, not because I'm measuring something like traffic or bounce rate, but because I know 20 people over the last few days called me. I also know, not through this report, but through other reports in Google Analytics, what source of marketing generated those phone calls or submitted a form in this case, or even submitted a chat. Point is if you know how many customers you acquired from which marketing effort, you know which marketing effort is paying for itself and which marketing effort you should do more of, or what marketing effort you should stop because it's not really doing anything for you. Pretty valuable information. And the point is, this is why measurement is so very, very important. Let's not just hope that people contact us, that we hope that we get customers or sales. Set up your goals in Google Analytics so that you know how many people have contacted you. Now it's 2021, and I'm speaking at Santa Clarita, so we have to talk about privacy. Like California passed a law a couple years ago, basically saying we have to be careful about what we do with customers' data. If you happen to be watching this from Europe, you're aware of GDPR and how we have to worry about privacy as well. we things are changing as far as privacy. We could debate the value of this. The point is that's the law. We have to comply with it. So check your local laws. Now, you might not be in California, but even if you're not in California, you still have to abide by the California privacy laws if you could potentially have a customer in California. Now, if you happen to be a plumber in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I live, you probably can get away with not obeying the California privacy law. I'm not a lawyer. You either need to talk to a lawyer or need to delve into this a little bit yourself as a business owner, decide what you need to do to comply with your local laws. I'm just saying is measurement is very important, but because of privacy restrictions, we have to be very careful about how we handle our customers' data as they visit our website, as they submit forms to us and things like that. So please check your laws. Please pay attention to what the current laws are and follow them, because I don't want you to get in trouble. Well, that was depressing. Well, let's go on to the more exciting stuff. So the first thing we want to do in any SEO campaign is measure it. We talked about the value of that and some of the things that we need to know about that today. The second thing we need to worry about when it comes to SEO is crawling our website. Now, we're not crawling it. Google's crawling our website. But this is where we say, oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness we're at a WordPress conference, because WordPress does the crawl aspect really well. Out of the box, WordPress is very easy for Google to be able to crawl. And if we just have a WordPress website, Google typically doesn't have any problems with it. So yay, like if you're building some crazy JavaScript framework, unique custom system, or you're gonna use Wix or something like that, hey, you know what, you might be having some troubles. But because we're at a WordPress conference, hooray, Google does a really good job crawling our website. Except for one thing. You have to allow Google to crawl your website. See this button? It's under your settings. I can't tell you how much money I've made from doing SEO audits for websites that weren't crawled by Google, and the problem is someone checked this box to discourage search engines from indexing the site. Google really respects this. And so the first thing I do when I get into WordPress client is I make sure this is not checked. If you're a website developer, you've accidentally made this mistake before. It's almost a joke. But make sure this box is not checked. We do not want to discourage search engines from indexing the site. So double check this, please. That's the first thing to do. The second thing, as far as crawlability, we have to consider is just the idea that mobile websites. Now, I think most of us at this point are aware that mobile websites are important. However, I think it's still getting around that Google, when it considers a website to show in the search results, is using your mobile version of the website. It's called the mobile-only index. In other words, the website crawler that's crawling the internet to decide what pages it wants to add to the index so it knows which pages to serve to potential customers searching for you is using the mobile version of your site. So we need to think about mobile first, because that's the version Google's indexing universally at this point. If you don't have a very good mobile website, you need to invest in a mobile and responsive website. Responsive meaning it's the same website that shows different to mobile than it does to desktop systems. But what is a good mobile website? Well, thankfully you have installed Google Search Console. And you go into Google Search Console and you look at the mobile usability report. And it shows you, are there any mobile errors on your website? Or are your pages valid? Hey, great. So if you go into Search Console and you see an error here, you know you have some work to do to make sure Google can read your website's mobile version, because that's what it's using to evaluate yourself. Now, speed is another thing everyone's talking about in terms of crawlability for SEO. I've put it in quotation marks here because speed is a little misnomer. Google is not really using speed to decide how to rank your site. They are using something called the Core Web Vitals. And there are 3 Core Web Vitals. Largest contentful paint. I'm going to totally forget these, aren't I? Largest contentful paint, content layout shift, and oh, I'm embarrassed. I just totally brain farted on the 3rd one. How embarrassing. I'm supposed to be the expert here. Point is, you can go into Google Search Console and it will show you how well your website is doing in terms of these 3 core web vitals. Footnote, go to web.dev/vitals to learn about the 3 core web vitals. But Search Console will also show you how these or how your website's doing. And this algorithm shift happened in June, started rolling out in June. It will be finished by the end of August, in which case Google is going to be evaluating your website on these 3 different web core vitals. It's not that this is the only ranking factor. Some people are like, oh my gosh, Google won't serve my site if I'm slow. No, that's not it. What Google has said is you will only get a benefit if your web core vitals are green. But if you don't have green, the 3 web core vitals are green, you just won't get a benefit in the search results. So, yeah, you should do it. But what we don't know is to what extent of the hundreds of ranking factors is this the most important? Probably not. Is this the least important? Probably not. However, it's somewhere in there, and we know the specifics of what needs to be done, and we have this report in Google Search Console telling us we need to look at. Again, Google is mobile first in this index, so really kind of only interested in the mobile performance for the 3 core web vitals. So go to Core Web Vitals in Search Console, open the mobile report, and it will tell you where your problems are, on which pages, and then show you what you need to do to fix it. Now the problem is, unfortunately, some of these core web vitals, especially content layout shift, which is one of them, and it's not even a speed thing, that's more about the website shifting kind of thing. That might require a redesign of your website. Sorry to tell you that. It might have to do with how your website was built. So upgrading to a better server, shrinking all your images and compressing them won't help all of the 3 web core vitals. It might help the largest contentful paint, first input delay. First input delay, that's the 3rd web core vital. But it won't affect the content layout shift. That might require a little bit of website redesign. So look at this report and it will tell you where you need to improve the most. Try to bring as many pages as you can onto the green, and you will benefit from that. Sound cool? Now, Google recently released what they call the Page Experience Report. And this is acknowledgement that speed is not really the ranking factor. It's really better described as a page experience issue. And this shows you what percentage of your page have good URLs. Again, Google is rewarding you for good URLs, not penalizing you for slow or bad URLs. I think another confusion too is this is a URL or page by page basis algorithm, not your site is slow. I've heard people say, oh, you need to improve the site speed. Page by page. If you want a page to perform better, it needs to be faster. So some pages we don't really worry about for SEO, and that's okay that they're slow. But this report, the Page Experience Report, kind of shows you how you're doing and where you need to improve. You'll notice already, before the algorithm rolled out, as good URLs increased, impressions to your site. In other words, the more people are seeing your site in Google. Pretty neat, huh? So that's what we need to talk about in terms of speed. We need to talk about page experience for the 3 core web vitals. Okay, we're making some progress. We are measuring our website so we know whether or not an SEO campaign or any other marketing campaign is successful. We've talked about crawlability and how Google is evaluating our website by crawling it and the things we need to look for in terms of that. Next, we're going to talk about content. Yeah, I know that a lot of things are what keywords do I pick and how do I put them on the page and what are the secrets, alt tags, and all that stuff. That's like the third step of a good SEO campaign. So it's important, but it's not, we have to do a lot of things before we get that. And frankly, what we got to talk about is the idea of words. You know, we have to have words on the page. Google doesn't catch drifts very well. So we have to talk about things in terms that our customers are using to search for it, which is probably good for marketing anywhere. Fortunately, a lot of designers are scared of words, and they don't leave enough room for words on a page. I'd say you probably should shoot for somewhere around 800 words on a page. And it might seem like a lot, but you don't have to have just one big bulk of words. You can have, break it up. You can put images in the middle, but you need a significant amount of words on your page if you want Google to serve it up. And it needs to be in terms of what your customers are talking about. Now, I frankly like the Yoast SEO plugin. I think a lot of people badmouth it, but I think it's great. I recommend doing it. I do it on all my sites and all my client sites. However, one of the things that's useless in it is the green light. I've seen clients obsess on that godforsaken green light. And I get it. It's an easy way to communicate that each page should have a specific focus. And it's an easy way to say, does your page talk about the word on which you're focusing for that page? But be careful about being too obsessing on it. For instance, one of the recommendations is sometimes your URL should include your keywords. And I've seen people change the URL every time they change their keyword focus and really hurt their SEO efforts because they've changed the URL, they didn't do a redirect, now things are really messed up. So use Yoast, but understand the limitations of limiting yourself by one keyword. In fact, I don't really use this feature on Yoast because it's so misleading. But we'll talk about Yoast in a little bit. Another thing we got to worry about with content is duplicate content. Now, that is where Google encounters the same content on multiple pages. Now, that could be borrowed content from another website put on your site. Don't do that. The words need to be unique. If you ask myself, well, how am I supposed to write 100 or 800 words on a page? I can't do that. I'm going to cut corners and copy content from another website. Well, first of all, don't be a plagiarist. Don't steal content. Second of all, Google is pretty much going to ignore your content because it's the same. But one of the things we also need to think about is the fact that WordPress accidentally will sometimes create duplicate content in that there are multiple pages on which you can see the same content. And one of the places that this occurs is in your blog. You need to use your read more tags on your blog posts. This is a little tag you insert after your first paragraph that basically tells WordPress only show above this line on things like archive pages, date pages, category pages, tag pages. That is the only bit that will show on those pages. In order to read the entire post, you have to see the actual page that it contains the post. This cuts down on a lot of duplicate content. Now, some themes automatically do this for you. That is the best way to do it, because this is a pain in the butt to go into every one of these and change it manually to add the read more tag. But it's worth it, because now to read the entire post, you can only get to it by, because the read more tag, you only get the entire post by viewing it on the post page. Now, I know I talked about words, but today we need to think about images when it comes to SEO. And that's because Google has noticed a trend recently that people are going to Google image search to search for products and services. Do you do event planning? Are you promoting a school? Anything shopping, sales that you're providing, medical searches, fashion. These are the kinds of things that people go to Google image search to search for, rather than the text-based search engine. So if you want to be found and you're in some of these kind of industries, you should make sure you include good images on your website. I'd say even if you don't qualify under one of those industries, take the proactive measure of making sure you have good and unique images on your website. And this is where we're like, wow, hooray, we're using WordPress, and WordPress is a featured image. Now, not all of your themes support featured images. I do recommend using a theme that does support a featured image. But that's what you put the featured images, and it puts it at the top of your page. This does a couple things. This associates your content with this image. It gives a visual interest in the topic, because we're all visual people, but it helps people find your products, your services on Google image search. It also could show up in other places like Google Discovery, which is kind of a new product by Google. But you need to have an image associated with your content. So use images. Use them frequently. But there's no but here. Use them. They're valuable for SEO. Now, we can talk about alt tags and stuff like that. Just be descriptive. There's no secret sauce to alt tags. It's such a low ranking factor. Just be descriptive and accurate and relate to what your customers are searching for in there. But the point is, use the featured image. That's going to be a really helpful piece for you. Next, let's talk about Schema. You might have heard about Schema, but basically Schema is a way of encoding your website such that when Google sees it, it understands that 3 numbers, a dash, 3 numbers, a dash, and 4 numbers is a phone number. We as humans are really good at identifying these kind of patterns, but Google is not. And we use Schema to help say this is a phone number. We might see a number, a word, an abbreviation, a word, a comma, 2-letter abbreviation, a 5-digit number, and we say that's an address. But Google doesn't know that, so we use Schema to encode that to say, hey Google, this is my address. That's what Schema does. There's all kinds of Schema you can add to your website. This is one of the best things about the Yoast plugin. It automatically adds Schema to your website. It does things like allow organization schema. It does things like automatically establish what we call website schema, which, if Google determines your website's authoritative enough, can show a search bar for your website in the search results. So when someone searches for your brand name, the Google search result will show a search bar where someone can search your website. That's done through website schema, which is done automatically through the Yoast plugin. Pretty cool, huh? Schema, thanks to Google Search Console, Google will show you the schema it's able to see on your website. So at the very bottom of this, I get a little confused. The site link search box, that is the number of pages that have the website schema that allows for the site link search box. Logos is a function of the organization schema, which again, Yoast Plugin automatically sets up for you. There's all kinds of schema that you can add to your website to help Google read and understand it. Review schema is another thing. If you have ever seen the stars under a search engine listing, I will warn you, however, be really careful. Read Google's rules on review schema before you add it to your website. They've been sending nastygrams a lot lately to websites who cheat on schema, with reviews specifically. Well, measure, crawl. Thank you, WordPress. That's easy. Content, we've talked all about that. Now we got to talk about links. And this, Google uses links to determine not just what your website's about, but who says your website's credible. We can think about links as an analogy of, let's say there's a room full of plumbers, and all the plumbers say plumber on them. I work for this plumbing company. It's on their shirt, plumber. It's on their van out back, plumber. They might have a business card that says plumber. All the plumbers in this room have the word plumber on them somewhere. So you know it's a room full of plumbers. Which is the best plumber? Is it the plumber that says plumber more often? Maybe because they sprinkled that in their conversation. Maybe because their hat and their shirt says it. No, it's not the one that says it the most. It's the plumber that the other plumbers point to and say, that person there, that person is the best plumber. Google uses links to do the same thing. Which website is the best in your industry? The one to which the other websites link. Now, when we introduce people to the concept of link building, sometimes people go a little bit crazy. So we can't cheat any more than if the room full of plumbers paid everybody in that room $5 to say he's the best plumber. Okay, is he really the best plumber, or did he just have more money than the others to spend it on that, right? That's not a credible, at that point, links are the same way. If you cheat or break the rules with links, Google knows that. At this point, the algorithm to detect links is so automated, they pretty much ignore links that they think don't count. But we still need links to show that we are credible. So that brings up the question of how are we going to get links? And this is hard, but you need to do it. And the real short version is that you need to think like a PR professional. Why would anybody link to you? Is it because you say something no one else does? Is it because there's a value of your website over other websites? Think quality over quantity. It would be better to get a link from a quality website in your area than it would be get 100 links from anybody who take money from you. But the point is you need to think about why anyone would want to link to you so that you can get the links to your website that Google will consider authoritative. One of the easiest ways to do this is through internal linking. Internal linking is the idea that within your content you are linking from one page to another, and Google uses the links within your own website to determine which page is most relevant for which phrase. Again, another feature of the Yoast plugin is it will keep track of how many links are going to a particular page. So that makes it really easy to know, do I have enough internal links to a page so that Google will consider it a credible page? Well, one of the other things about links is sometimes other websites link to pages that no longer exist. This is really frequent when you build a new website and your developer does not set up redirects from the old URLs to the new URLs. This is the most frequent reason why websites that are newly launched underperform previous websites. It's because the links to from websites are going to 404 or error pages. Thanks to Google Search Console, you can look in your coverage report and you can find which pages are receiving a 404 error. And now you can take and insert a 301 redirect to get to those pages. This gives you credit for those links that are coming from other websites that when they land on a 404 page, those links don't give you authority. They don't act as a vote of confidence, your company, your business, your website. But if you 301 redirect those, I like to use the simple 301 redirects plugin, now you get the credit for that. So go into Google Search Console, look for 404 errors, and set up your 301 redirects to account for that. So there it is. SEO is all about measuring it, making sure we know our marketing efforts are successful, crawling it, which talks about mobile first, page experience, things like that. Content, that we talk about things that our customers are looking for in a way that Google can understand it, and links that other websites think we're credible too. But this is the beginning of an SEO campaign. There's a lot going on here, but we have to keep up with it. So let's not pretend that we've done this when we can walk away and that's an SEO campaign. SEO is an ongoing activity that I hope this gives you some starting point of what you should look at, but I hope this gets you into this idea of SEO so that you can now begin to continue with your marketing of your website through search engines. If you would like some more information about what to do for SEO, visit my site curiousants.com/WCSC, and you can learn more about some of the other things you can do to improve your SEO campaign. But in the meantime, thank you so much for listening to my talk. I'm going to be around to answer some questions for you, and hope to hear from you soon. Thanks. Goodbye.
Awesome, David Zimmerman. Awesome. Thank you. You've made all of that just so accessible.
Thanks, Ron.
I don't have to search. We do have some questions, and a couple of these were asked by some of our awesome volunteers. This one's from Lynn Nishihara. If you are in North Carolina, but you are selling a product to different states, do you need to accommodate all states' privacy laws, or do you follow the most restrictive?
So I am not a lawyer, and I do, to the disappointment of my mother, I just do web marketing. However, I err on the side of caution. If you are a plumber in North Carolina and you could never do business outside of the state, you might be able to get away with not having to comply with privacy laws. However, you probably have a blog, and there might be people in other geographies that could read that blog. In that case, you are presenting your material to those different geographies, and you would be held accountable to that. Besides, the future is this. Even since I recorded this presentation, the laws in Italy have changed. There's talk of this becoming nationwide in the United States soon. So pay attention. If you are concerned, speak to a lawyer. So that's the best answer I can give. I will say that I do err on the side of caution, and I try to comply with all California laws and GDPR laws because I do get traffic from those locales.
Okay, great. We only have another minute.
Sure.
People are asking real quick, are you going to provide your slides, or is that
I slipped it in the chat.
Oh, okay.
The YouTube chat under my SEO Game Plan, Curious Ants SEO Game Plan account. Good. That's just what I was logged in with. Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine.
There was the strange thing claiming to have the slides. That was me so you can trust that link.
I
would normally not trust a link like that, but that was me
I
putting
always
my
trust, links
yeah,
from strange things, people.
exactly. That's a great way to get hacked.
I have a quick question. Do you recommend high-end SEO services such as SEMrush or Top Hat Rank? And are these your competitors?
These are not my competitors.
Ah,
They are data tools that accumulate information that might help you make better decisions. I'd suggest that most people don't need to spend that kind of money. Having Google Search Console and Google Analytics can give you a lot of really great
sure.
information that's very actionable.
Yeah.
Frankly, I've looked in the SEMrush for a long time, or SEMrush, some people call it. I can't justify the expense. There are other tools I do spend money on, but for most people, just spend your time installing your Google Analytics and Search Console, and you're going to get a lot of really great actionable items.
That's wonderful. And lastly, this is maybe a little personal, but speaking of your core vitals, what has been your largest contentful paint? I'm sorry, that's a joke.
My largest contentful paint? I don't recall. I know that's the hardest one to cover, and you have to do a lot of redoing of websites in order to do that.
I see a white board behind you, so I know you do some paint.
That's my link building strategy, so don't read that. But
right.
No, yeah, largest contentful paint is one of the hardest ones to fix. It's very disappointing.
It's the hardest one to say. It's the hardest one to remember.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so very much, David. And this has been such a joy. And you really make it fun. This is dry stuff, and it's not fun. And you made it fun. So,
thanks, man, I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Everyone else, you can continue on with David in the Slack channel. There's a general Slack channel. And there's also a Zoom room someplace, if you can find it. He might be in one of those two, or he might not. But and stand by, please, for closing remarks from Sumner M. Davenport. So that's coming up in the Sky Tower. You got to go over to the Sky Tower. That's where she lives. All right. Thank you, David. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.